The peaceful pastures of the Danube, 2,000 years ago. Until the Romans came and tried to crush the German barbarians. They built a great double city here for their legions and for 60,000 civilians to defend this northern border of the Roman Empire. Nothing remains today but two vast arenas and a great mysterious imperial arch. The rest of the city is still there, under the ground, waiting to be revealed.
A complete sunken metropolis, impossible to excavate in 1,000 years. But non-invasive, high-tech archaeology can give us answers.
Scanners today transform cornfields into streets, baths, and temples. And in an amazing discovery, into a place where men trained, fought, and died. Right here in Carnuntum. The lost city of gladiators. A high-tech camera plane leaves Vienna, flying 40 miles to the east. On board, Wolfgang Neubauer is leader of a new breed of archaeologists. These people don't just dig. They look from above with ultra-high-resolution cameras and scanners, and then on the ground with radar and magnetometers. There's little to see for the naked eye, just fields and forests in a flat landscape. And then you see it. The clear remains of a huge oval construction where the Romans amused themselves with their cruel entertainments on the edge of their empire. And just a few miles further on, in the same sunken city, another giant arena, built for an audience of thousands. Between these lonely ruins, the archaeologist can see in his mind's eye a lost metropolis 3 miles across, a garrison, a port, an administrative center, and a giant city. Set away to one side, the great arena and the mystery it hides.
All the naked eye can see from the air is green fields, but an aerial photograph from 1981 was really puzzling.
The smudgy old photo, long forgotten, showed a dark spot next to the arena, nothing else. Only when Neubauer was given the task of scanning the whole city did it re-emerge. A color change means the rain is draining differently. That means something is different under the ground. But what? So Neubauer rerouted his plane away from the main city to the spot next to the arena. Maybe there'd be nothing. But 30 more years of plowing, drying, and climate change, and a new generation of cameras might turn up something new. And it did. Time to analyze the results.
This is from the 1980s, and it clearly shows this large spot here.
Yeah.
We were not sure if this is due to geological structures or if there is really archaeology below. And if I turn on now the new aerials from the last years, it's the first time that we can also see in the aerials the walls. So especially here, the entrance, here the walls going up for the big building complex.
It's too big for a villa, too small for, say, a prison. And why did they build it so close to the arena? A city with two great arenas would need gladiators. They would need to be found. And they must be trained. Starting as raw recruits. From all over the empire they would come. Some as prisoners, some as slaves, some even as volunteers. Like one we'll call Atticus, from North Africa. An ex-soldier looking for adventure and a last chance to get ahead. Young, fit, and hungry. That would be how every one of them started. But how can archaeologists really know what went on here? At Vienna's Ludwig Boltzmann Institute, the scientists have developed electronic scanners that can survey acres at a time, without the need for slow and expensive digs. Find something interesting, and they can zero right in. The scans gather data that build to a three-dimensional map of the landscape beneath the surface. First, magnetometers measure variations in the Earth's magnetic field, perhaps where rocks or earth have been moved. Every scan is recorded and stored as raw data with a precise GPS location. Next, ground-penetrating radar looks deeper to create a three-dimensional image of walls and foundations still in place. This is mapping the past. Guided by GPS, the scans are merged with the new aerial photos to show every detail of the freshly discovered complex. The combination of images reveals one final, vital element.
Can we compare this to the magnetic results? Yeah. Look here. You can see much more detail. The building gets much more complete. So we have all the outer walls very detailed now. So it's much more information. But the most important, of course, is the circular structure in the courtyard.
A circular structure that only showed up when radar, magnetometer scans, and photographs were merged. Neubauer recognized at once what he had discovered.
Another arena in Carnuntum. A training arena in the center of a gladiator school. The first complete gladiator school ever found outside Rome.
Rome's Colosseum, the world-famous, iconic mother of all the empire's arenas. Right next to it, the ruins of a gladiator school. You can quite clearly see the cells the gladiators lived in, the tunnel to the arena. Enough to tell an archaeologist what to look for. And to visualize it exactly where it once stood. The large heated training hall. The house where the owner of the school lived, the lanista. The gladiator cells. And here in the corner of the courtyard, the training arena. This is where Atticus would spend the next years of his life. if he impressed the school's owner, the lanista. The training arena and the walls of the gladiator school confined the lives of several dozen men. Historians don't agree whether the school was run like a jail or whether the fighters could come and go at will. But even as a jail, it offered considerable comfort. The men had to be kept in good shape. The spectators wanted muscle as well as skill. And the lanista knew it. The training would be relentless. Speed, accuracy, stamina, and the occasional trick. All to win the approval of the lanista. Even a high-tech archaeologist of this lost Roman city will want to see hard evidence. Because even the most detailed scans can only get down to 3 inches square. To get in closer, you'll have to dig. And thanks to the scans, Neubauer's team knows exactly where to dig. Once the topsoil has been mechanically removed, the more sensitive work begins. The soil is sifted for tiny artifacts, by hand, for hours on end. One of Wolfgang's students finds a small metal object. It's a single scale from a gladiator's breastplate. And there's more.
Below the stands, we found a huge amount of animal bones, especially from poultry.
It looks like Centurion's fried chicken wasn't just the snack of choice at modern games. As they strip away the arena's foundations, the team finds the last crucial piece of evidence, a hole for the practice pole called the palace. It worked something like a boxer's punching bag. The point of the palace was to encourage absolute precision through endless practice, without the need for an opponent.
Here in this pit was the palus. The inner ring was marked by pebbles set in mortar, and the outermost circle formed a boundary between the arena and the spectator stands.
And just when Atticus might think he'd mastered all the skills, the coach, a retired gladiator, would invite him for a mock fight. Actually, it was a compliment. This was a rite of passage. It was a sign that the coach and the lanista were beginning to take their new recruits seriously. Atticus was moving toward his goal as a sporting idol, a profit center, and as a killer.
The social status of a gladiator was a very ambiguous one. On the one hand, he was an outcast, living outside the normal civil order. On the other hand, he could live the life of a star and has his fans and his own manner of honor and distinction and make a fortune.
But until he made his oath of absolute obedience to the lanista, none of this could happen. Atticus must swear to accept his fate, whatever it might be. I promise to submit. I will endure burning, being bound, beaten, killed by the sword. As a true gladiator, I will deliver up my body and my soul. As the training progressed, as their bodies and skills were honed, the gladiators to be would begin to choose or be selected for their specialty. Now it was about one aim: to fight in the great arena. They knew that the men they were training with, who had become their friends, would soon be their deadly adversary. Atticus was selected as a retiarius, his head unprotected, his weapons the long forked trident, and a net. Maybe less glamorous than the bronze-helmed scissor, but it let you fight at a distance. And the helmet could get in the way. One other factor kept the gladiators fighting fit. Gladiators also owed their condition to the school's kitchen. To a hungry fighter in the training arena, the smell of dinner simmering on the fire would signal a welcome break in his grueling routine. A gladiator's diet was not exactly what you might expect. In the ruins of Ephesus, another Roman city on the coast of today's Turkey, the skeletons of several dozen gladiators were discovered. Bones are a chemical archive, storing information about a person's eating habits. A specialized lab at the University of Vienna analyzed the Ephesus bones. Fabian Kantz is a forensic anthropologist and an expert in reconstructing personal histories from skeletons.
Our analyses have shown that the gladiator diet was mainly vegetarian. It predominantly consisted of beans and barley. The beans in the diet provided the proteins necessary for the muscle buildup, and the barley provided the carbohydrates necessary for every athlete.
A popular nickname for the gladiators was hordeari, barley guzzlers. Meat was scarce or absent, not just at the gladiator school, but generally in Roman kitchens, except for the rich. The gladiators knew it was healthy. That didn't mean it was tasty. But there was no choice. They had to obey. They'd taken an oath. And the great arena just beyond the wall was a constant reminder of the fate that awaited them. The city of Carnuntum was extremely well connected to the rest of the Roman Empire. And for a very good reason. Originally built to permit rapid deployment of the military to conquered lands, Roman roads have survived millennia. They were the lifeblood of the empire. On them, riches of the Mediterranean arrived in Carnuntum from Italy, Spain, and North Africa. Fabulous wealth also came from the north. Amber from the shores of the Baltic Sea, worth its weight in gold. The ancient Amber Road crossing the Danube made Carnuntum a hub of continental trade. With trade and riches come the need for defense. And Carnuntum's third great surviving ruin, nicknamed the Heathen's Gate. It was easy for archaeologists to reconstruct the Heathen's Gate's original shape. But its purpose remained a riddle. This great monument stood alone, outside the city, with no sign of any walls, nor any connection to the rest of Carnuntum. Until Neubauer's team scanned the empty fields around the monument, no one had any idea what went on beside this triumphal arch. Assembling the bigger picture is what scanning is all about.
What we found is the remains of huge temporary military camps which held thousands of Roman soldiers waiting for the next campaign.
The Heathen's Gate stood at the center of these great camps, reminding the soldiers of their allegiance to Rome.
So this is just a spot where Rome decided to concentrate the troops from all over the empire, from the eastern end of the Mediterranean up to Britain, to combat the barbarian tribes standing right on the other side of the Danube behind me.
Those German barbarian tribes were held back for hundreds of years, but never defeated. They repeatedly broke into the empire from the north. Again and again, swamps and wild forests turned into blood-drenched battlefields. The Romans hated fighting these barbarians, an enemy on their home ground, deep in the dank, dark forests. For 3 years, Emperor Marcus Aurelius even moved his headquarters to Carnuntum to direct the campaign. For many, he represented the best of Rome. He believed in virtue in the face of death itself. That would be demanded of gladiators too. In Rome, on the column named after him, his troops can be seen crossing the Danube on a temporary bridge, on their way to a counterattack. But gladiators didn't join the fighting soldiers on the Danube front. They had another mission for the military. It was the gladiators' job to entertain the troops between the campaigns, to keep up their fighting spirit. And the army had the money to run the second big arena in Carnuntum.
The gladiator embodied certain warrior virtues as they were prized by the Romans. Stoic contempt of death and, as one Roman writer called it, the love of beautiful wounds.
Beautiful wounds or not, the time was coming for Atticus to face the reality of combat. Real weapons, swords, and the full specialist protection that guaranteed an equal match. There were many small variations in gladiator armor and weaponry. Slight differences in weapons and armor could make all the difference to the outcome of a bout.
There are two different possibilities to combine gladiators to a fighting pair. The one possibility is to put two gladiators of the same type against one another. Then they have the same equipment and nobody has an unfair advantage. The other possibility is to confront a gladiator with one of a different type, with different equipment. And this was much more popular because of the thrill of the diversity. And you can see by experiment that even in that case, the strengths and weaknesses are so well balanced that they have equal chances. After you had become the member of a certain class of gladiators, then you remained in that class. You were a retiarius and you remained a retiarius.
As a retiarius with net and trident, you were vulnerable, but you were also maneuverable. By bobbing and weaving, you could keep your distance and get out of your opponent's field of vision. Fail at that, and he would close in with his short sword. And now, outsiders are taking an interest too. A gladiator is beginning to be public, as well as private property. And the retiarius has one more advantage. Not only can he see, he can be seen. If this were a real and not a practice fight, his opponent would be dead. And that might be a powerful attraction to a wealthy Roman matron, used to getting exactly what she desired. Something for everyone. For the lanista, the first return on his investment.
The strongest fascination of a gladiator was certainly the morbid allure of a man always confronted with death. Death by being a killer or getting killed himself.
A gladiator finishing his training might have felt it was the lull before the storm, with the confidence of having gained his skills, but with the insecurity of not having been truly tested. A tantalizing prospect for a citizen all too sure of her position in society. The Trini gladiator's life could be a strange mix of Spartan hardship and unaccustomed luxury, a far cry from the simple life he left behind in North Africa. It was a moment when two strands of Roman society came together. Each could reach into a forbidden world. For the gladiator especially, it was a mark of success and a kind of freedom.
The usual presentation of a gladiatorial school as a prison is one-sided. For the prisoners and for the convicted criminals, certainly there had to be restrictions and they had to be held under guard. But the real professional gladiators were volunteers and they led a quite normal life. A gladiator was a high investment because of his training and his living conditions.
The living conditions were expensive, and the lanista was running a business. It's time to start planning the main event. For Atticus, this will be his first combat in the arena. Tonight's contest is held in the smaller practice arena. In attendance are admirers and privileged onlookers, potential sponsors, who might invest huge sums to mount the games, if they are impressed by what they see. This time, the stakes are higher. Real weapons, real combat. His opponent is a scissor, armed with a knife and a vicious scythe-like blade. If the scissor can reach Atticus, the crescent blade in his left hand will do terrible damage. But without the weight of his armor, Atticus can move faster. Testing and taming the scissor. Atticus has studied well. Even without his net, he keeps his distance. And when he gets it back, as the rules allow, early in a bout, the moment comes. A classic slice to the unprotected thigh, and it's all over. Man down. The index finger goes up in submission. The moment of truth. Not every gladiator combat ended in death. In fact, most didn't. The gladiator was far too valuable. If the loser had fought valiantly, the crowd usually wanted him spared. Ideally, with a beautiful wound, which received the best care possible. Forensic scientist Fabian Kahns has made a special study of the bones of gladiators whose combat wounds had healed. Infections were notably rare. It seems the Romans had sound practical knowledge.
Superficial wounds, like cuts, were treated by cleaning and afterwards disinfected with vinegar. And for a better wound healing, honey and resin were applied.
Painkillers were in short supply. The gladiator needed his stoic training. Never show suffering, bravery, even in the face of death. But for Atticus, it's graduation day. From now on, it's real. Unleashed on the public, he soon becomes a star. A name for the billboards far and wide. A supreme technician. And when it comes, in the din of the arena, killing is just a part of the job. The night before an especially big tournament, the fighters would be on show at the Kina Libra, open to an elite public. A big night for Atticus, a return to his home arena. The fighters have learned to display a cool bravado, that vital Roman virtue. But feelings are mixed tonight. These are the men he trained with. School's over. It's the day of the games. And archaeologist Wolfgang Neubauer has discovered a last, unexpected piece of the puzzle that brings this combination of sport and brutality closer to us than ever.
So we have now also finished the eastern part of the amphitheater area, and you see there is an empty space between the School of Gladiators and this new area, and it looks like we have a series of buildings alongside the road leading directly to the amphitheater.
What's this here in the middle with the chambers?
This is an interesting building. Look here, you have very clearly the subconstruction where they had the food for the people in heated pots. Also the front of the other buildings is very obviously something we would actually expect for shops. So it would be a series of shops alongside
Going along
the path into the amphitheater,
Right.
and the people went to the games.
That makes good sense.
Yeah.
Just like today, big sporting events meant a business opportunity for vendors selling everything from food to souvenirs. The Romans knew their business. You could be sure that the lanista and the sponsors had a hand in it. They had a captive audience, enjoying the essential support to any great sporting event. A lively sale of snacks, scents, and merchandise to get the crowd in the mood. including talismans, to bring good luck to your favorite gladiator. Up to 12,000 eager citizens would have gathered in Carnuntum's arena to witness the return of Atticus. A top gladiator might thrill his fan base with up to 20 combats. He could make his lanista and sponsors very rich. An early, powerful advantage to Atticus. Too early. The crowd and sponsors want more. Atticus's opponent trained with him and knows his every move, every trick. He knows what to expect. He knows when to duck. Atticus mistimes his throw. So late in the bout, he won't get his net back. Now, both men are hurt. But Atticus is drained and desperate. A gladiator's death. Emperor Marcus Aurelius, a great Roman who once defended the city of Carnuntum, wrote, "Everything you now see will very swiftly pass away, and those who have watched it passing will swiftly pass away in their turn. And he who dies in extreme old age will be brought to a level with one who has died before his time." There could be no better expression of Roman Stoic virtues, the virtues the gladiators were trained to embody. Carnuntum lived on for 250 years after the time of Marcus Aurelius and our fictional Atticus. But the barbarians kept attacking. Finally, the empire abandoned its northern frontier, evacuating the city.
After the Romans retreated from the Danube, Carnuntum became a ghost town. And in the end, even that faded away.
It may have faded away, but it left hidden clues that are only now, after 2,000 years, coming to the surface. Like an old photograph, images magically appear that help us reconstruct a lost civilization with unprecedented clarity. It was a civilization, one very like our own, yet so shockingly different. This was Carnuntum, lost city of the gladiators.